afternoon. My name is Terry Ann Meyer, and today I will be leading a training on the sensitivity analysis in capital budgeting. Today we will examine the ways that a sensitivity analysis can be leveraged as a powerful tool for capital budgeting. Capital budgeting, also known as capital asset planning, is the process organizations use to evaluate whether to fund major projects or long-term investments intended to increase cash flow or advance strategic objectives. Capital budgeting is important because it ensures that resources are allocated efficiently to support long-term strategic goals within acceptable risk levels, empowering companies to make well-informed decisions that drive growth and innovation and uphold compliance and ethical standards, ultimately supporting sustainable financial health. A sensitivity analysis, also referred to as the what-if analysis, because it assesses what would happen if something occurred. The benefits of this analysis is that it allows companies to identify critical variables that most affect project performance. It also allows companies to assess risk and uncertainty by showing best case and worst case scenarios. It allows companies to improve decision-making by revealing how robust a project is to changes. It also supports the contingency planning step of the scenario analysis by highlighting potential vulnerabilities. Ultimately, it helps decision makers evaluate how much confidence they can have in a project's expected results. Some limitations of the sensitivity analysis include its inability to provide probability assessments. While it shows how changes and assumptions affect outcomes, sensitivity analysis do not indicate the likelihood of those changes. This makes it less effective for assessing the overall risk and expected variability of outcomes. Another limitation is that this tool considers subjective input ranges, as the choice of variable ranges are often arbitrary or based on judgment. Without providing accurate input data and assumptions, also known as quality data, it's likely to skew the results and lead to misleading conclusions. It also ignores the correlation between variables, as the sensitivity analysis typically alters one input while holding others constant, which can result in the oversimplification of real-world interdependencies between variables. Since real-world inputs like price and demand are often correlated, when the standard sensitivity analysis assumes interdependence, it can be at risk of either understating or overstating actual project risk. Lastly, it lacks decision-making framework, as it only shows how outcomes change without recommending a specific course of action. For effective decision-making to happen, the sensitivity analysis must be supplemented with tools like the scenario analysis or decision trees. The qualitative steps of a sensitivity analysis helps to shape, interpret, and contextualize the analysis. These steps ensures that the analysis is meaningful and aligned with strategic goals. First, the key variables must be identified by selecting input variables with the greatest potential impact on the outcome. Then, defining the range of variation by setting upper and lower bounds for each variable based on realistic expectations gauged from historical data or expert judgment. Lastly, we must establish assumptions through qualitatively assessing the realism of base case assumptions like market trends, regulatory environments, and consumer behavior, and consider the uncertainties and external factors that may affect variables. The quantitative steps of a sensitivity analysis turn assumptions into measurable risk, enabling clear insight into financial resilience and risk exposure of decision. Base case modules are developed by using best estimate inputs for items like revenue to calculate key outcome metrics like net present value or NPV, internal rate of return or IRR, and payback period. Then we're recalculating the output by changing one variable at a time while keeping others constant. After that, we must record and analyze results by tracking how changes in input affects financial metrics. And finally, Visualizing findings can help prioritize variables for risk management and further analysis through charts like sensitivity tables, tornado diagrams, or line graphs, which can highlight inputs are most sensitive, which inputs are most sensitive. Now that we understand capital budgeting and the sensitivity analysis, let's look at some of the ways the risk can be incorporated into capital budgeting. Due to it being both practical and traditional, due to it being both practical and simple to apply, the risk adjustment discount rate method is most widely used. Unlike the RADR, certainty equivalents maintain that instead of adjusting the discount rate, we adjust the cash flows themselves to reflect risk. This is a more theoretically sound method than the RADR model because it separates risk and the time value of money. And then our dear friend, the sensitivity analysis, as we have learned, tests how changes in one key input like sales or volume or cost affects the project's outcome. Scenario analysis is often used in conjunction to the sensitivity analysis. It goes a step beyond by changing multiple variables at once to create realistic what-if cases, allowing for the comparison of optimistic, pessimistic, and base case outcomes to prepare for uncertainty. The Monte Carlo simulation is a more advanced approach where probability distributions are defined for uncertain inputs by running thousands of simulations to give a probability-based view of risk and outcomes. This has proven to be useful for large or high-stakes projects where understanding the full risk profile is essential. Lastly, we have decision trees. These are great for projects with multiple stages or decision points under uncertainty, as it lays out possible decisions and their outcomes visually and calculate expected values. This can help to guide choices when the future is uncertain and decisions are interdependent. In summation, we have successfully defined capital budgeting and the importance of capital budgeting for organizations. We then define sensitivity analysis as well as its benefits and limitations. Next, we explore the numerous qualitative and quantitative steps of a sensitivity analysis and ended with a review of some ways companies incorporate risk into a capital budgeting analysis. Thank you for your attention and time.